when it comes to parenting, the goal isn't to raise kids who know how to behave and they know the rules. The goal is to raise adults who know and follow Jesus. But how do we actually do that? What happens if you have an older kid who's on their way out? Is it too late? We're talking about that today and a lot more on Leading Forward.
All right. Well, back in the studio, back
Yeah.
for another week, talking to some great, incredible leaders. You just had an amazing trip to Guatemala with your family.
I didn't even think about talking about that. It was fantastic.
And we're talking about family today.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
it's great.
today,
It's my pleasure.
Welcome
Yes.
to the Leading Forward podcast.
That's good to be here.
Man, I feel like I need to go a little lower on my
Yeah, you got to
my
get with the
haircut,
program, man.
Well, only so many of us have perfect heads.
That's right.
It's true. Mine leans to the right a little bit.
Yeah. Number one, everywhere. It's easy, easy math.
Hey, all right. Well, I'm going to introduce Chris on
Please
that note.
do.
Can we do that? Hey, Chris Collins, thank you for being part of what we do here, man. And looking forward to picking your brain on parenting. For everybody who's tuning in, I get to introduce you to a friend of ours. And Chris is a follower of Jesus. I'm reading from my notes. A husband to his wife, Missy, of nearly 30 years. Father to two sons, owner and CEO of Collins Walker. It's a third-generation commercial HVAC supply company. One breath. In Dallas, Texas. We're in Dallas, if you guys didn't know that. So I recently had an opportunity to spend some time with Chris. I kind of shadowed Chris for a day, and that was a ton of fun.
It was a good day.
That was a great day.
It was a good day.
So fruitful. It didn't take long for me to think that he's got to be on the pod. You and I
Yeah.
both talked about that
Absolutely.
different times. But what stood out to me wasn't just that he's built a successful business, third generation. That's legacy right there.
Mm-hmm.
But also you have a way of connecting truth, of leading out, not in a obnoxious way, but leading out what you believe. It's who you are, your values. And as we talked and as I learned more, that so reflects also in your business. And I can only imagine in your parenting, as we'll talk about today. So today we're talking about one of the most important assignments that any of us have, raising kids who don't just inherit faith, but they own faith. You ready to get into it?
Let's go.
Man, that's good. Love that. Third generation.
Third generation and Gen 4 started, and my oldest son, Reese, I'll talk about here in just a second, started in December. So Generation 4 is in the house. Yeah.
Man, love hearing that. Just being able to continue a legacy, continue something. It's very difficult to pass on generation to generation.
No doubt.
And that transition period is always a struggle and a process, and helping them get up to speed, not just have dad's name, but have the authority to be able to lead. All right. So one of the things we talk about a lot on the Leading Forward podcast is leadership through the lens of faith and how those things play out together. And so how does faith play out in your leadership, both in your business, third generation, and being able to lead it forward, and both in your business and in your home?
No, that's a great question. Yeah, it makes me think of one particular aspect, which is the concept of stewardship, right? And in truth, the state of Texas, according to the state of Texas, I own 100% of Collins Walker Incorporated, but in reality, God owns that company. He owns it. I've been called to steward it for a season. Similarly, and this one's a little tougher, especially for the mamas, right? But my kids really aren't mine, not with the ultimate sort of peel back all the layers truth. And so I've been called and blessed to steward them and the raising of them for a season, right? And that's kind of heavy, but the reality there is, or what I got compelled and convicted with years ago was on the business side, was how can I be about bringing God glory? Because ultimately, quick aside, I think that's why we were created, right? I mean, that's
100%.
the essence of why God made us, not because he was lonely, but to ultimately bring glory to him. And so if I'm going to spend 8-10 hours a day working, I want that to be for more than just money. However, we're a for-profit organization, right? I'm all about making money. I want to make piles of it for God's glory and for my comfort and all the things. I like snacks and whatever, right? But so we like to say around our offices, there's no mission without margin. We try to be very missional and do things outward beyond ourselves and love our employees well in a lot of different things in a lot of different ways. But we also understand there's no mission without margin. So we're a for-profit organization, no doubt.
I love that. You can say that one over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's a big deal. But if I'm going to spend that much time working, man, I want it to be for something greater than myself. And so I understand that God has called me to stewardship of this thing for a season. And I just want to do that well for his glory.
Yeah. Absolutely love that. Love just that mindset that I'm only a steward. You know, you talked about moms and their different perspective. And one of the things, I think I said it a couple weeks ago on a podcast, but it's just been consuming me, is this idea that moms, their role is to take care of the kid for today, and a dad's job is to prepare them for tomorrow.
That's good.
And it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that actually creates tension, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
With our wives, and they're trying to take care of the kid for today. And you go, no. I sometimes have to be hard on them because I'm preparing them for a very hard, difficult world.
That's good. I got some thoughts on that more in a minute on that. We'll come back to that.
Okay. So third generation.
Yeah. Yeah. So my grandfather founded the company in 1977. He was 55 when he started Collins Walker, former president of a similar organization. My uncle was second generation. I bought him out in 2008 and had been got out of college, Texas A&M, and in the mid 90s, and went to work at Collins Walker and bought the company in 2008. And so again, Gen 4, and my oldest son my youngest son is working summer. He's a junior. He'll be a junior this fall at Texas A&M. He's working in the warehouse, sweating this summer and moving boxes and learning the ropes. I'm not sure if he'll be at Collins Walker long term or not, to be determined. But yeah.
But your oldest son.
He is. He's doing inside sales right now. He's worked a bunch of summers in the past as well. And he's doing really well. And we're having lots of fun. I wasn't sure about that component. We're having a blast. He's got a million questions and he wants to learn everything, and he's picking my brain, and it's been really neat, really fun. I've got a mentor that is a few years ahead of me, and he's got a couple of his kids working in his business, and it's kind of goals around that guy. Look at him, he's like, man, that's who I want to be when I grow up. And to see elements of that kind of starting to play out, it's been a lot of fun.
So it's difficult.
It is.
That's a difficult thing to be able to pass on the business, and for them to both have the role and the responsibility and the authority, not just of dad's name, but to really be able to carry the weight. So it's a huge thing.
No doubt. There's a lot to it.
If somebody's listening in right now, it's easy for someone to be like, oh, okay, well, that guy, he did it right. He's got it going on. He's got the great kids and he did it right. But was there ever a time where you were thinking, or maybe an event or just a season where you thought that you weren't getting it right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. On the business side, I would say it this way. On the business side, I've had more failures than successes, probably considerably more. It's been about 30 years now that I've been doing this. My wife and I celebrate our 30th wedding anniversary here in a couple of weeks.
Congrats. It's huge.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. And it has been way more difficult, way more challenging than I ever thought it would be, way more failures than successes. And so all that to say, I think I'm a lot better father than I'm a businessman. So
okay. That's fair.
I can talk all day about business.
That's a huge accomplishment right there.
Yes.
Yeah. And honestly, I think at the end of all this, we get to heaven and it's well done, good and faithful servant. And I'm going to have a lot more, however that works, Jeremy, jewels in my crown about on the fatherhood side and husband side that I will on the business leader side, arguably. And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? I think fatherhood's a higher calling, to be honest, a more important priority than anything we might do to go about making money.
I was listening to somebody, this is a total Instagram reel moment, the memory, but something that stuck with me was the only man in your whole world who wants to see you be greater than him is your dad.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Brothers might even fight, like the only man is your dad.
No doubt.
That's what we want.
Yeah. And then I give him a hard time too, because I'm like, dude, I've worked for 30 years to get this thing where I want it to be. And you're stepping in the good times that are recently, arrived, and you're going to have no appreciation for it whatsoever. So
we were over your house a couple weeks ago, and I was telling him that if at 20 years old you met your 20-year-old son, he would be the richest kid that you knew.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, no doubt about it.
He has no clue how good they have it.
But he's a good kid, and he's got a great work ethic, and the future looks bright.
Yeah.
So what does, you use this word stewardship, what does that look like from stewarding your kids, stewarding this business? What does that look like for you?
Man, I think maybe a direction I'd like to take that question is kind of where it starts. Is that cool? Can we because I've given this some thought, and really before you can talk about raising godly kids, you have to take, I think, 2 steps back. One is the center of we've already kind of intimated, but the center of my sort of existence and the most important thing in my life is my relationship with Jesus, personal relationship with Jesus, not an affiliation with the church, not an affiliation with a denomination or whatever, but a personal relationship with Jesus. That's number one. That's the center of everything. And then two, and this one's big, man. This one's big. Not as big as Jesus, but it's big. And that is, and I ought to have this on a bumper sticker, but so much of who you are is who you're married to. So if I could take 30 seconds and preach, right? Like,
bring it.
Like young people that aren't married yet, so much of who you are is who you're married to. And I'll just kind of move quickly on this, but the way that I think, dress, motivated to make money, eat, breathe in and out, my clothes, just anything and everything you guys think about it is highly motivated or significantly impacted by my marriage, by who I'm married to, the thing.
Yeah.
Does that resonate? And I've seen examples of this really quickly. My mom passed away when I was 24, just tragically in a car accident. And dad was crushed. They were high school sweethearts, had been married, I don't remember, 30 years or 40 years or whatever it was. And I guess that math doesn't jive. But anyway, it was a long time ago now that she passed. She was about my age when she died. And so anyway, dad, a couple of years later, started dating, ended up getting remarried. It was all she was a wonderful woman, is a wonderful woman. But a lot of little things changed. The way that my dad dressed and the way and again, it wasn't bad, good, or indifferent. It was just so much of who you are is who you're married to. So what I would say to young people is, number one, if you're a believer, if you're a Christ follower, you don't date non-believers. You just don't want to do that. Just trust me, it's a whole other sermon. And then young ladies, raise the bar as it relates to the kind of men that you would entertain going on a date with, much less dating seriously or getting into a significant relationship with. Raise the bar and do not lower that for anything, because so much of who you are is who you're married to. And thus, that's where we're going next, is when you go to raising kids, man, it's a partnership. The Jesus talks about in the Bible how a man shall leave his father and mother. He's quoting Genesis, actually. Right. Leave his father and mother and hold fast to one another and become one flesh. I'm not a great math guy, but 1 + 1 = 1 in that scenario. It's like maybe the only time that happens. I don't know. But you become with your wife a completely new creation. Yeah. It's weird. It's really trippy, absolutely, right? But all that to say, it's a really, really big deal. And just so much of who you are is who you're married to. So much of your parenting, so much of your conversations with your kids and how you address crisis and issues, and all, so much of that is affected by your relationship with your wife or your husband, right? And your marriage is a big, big deal. And there's a huge component in all this.
You know what I do with marriage counseling? Premarital, to be more specific, scenarios.
Yeah.
For that very reason.
Yeah.
Because everything's going to come out when you run some scenarios. Hey, what do you do? What do you do? What do you agree with that? Exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay, so let me preach with you a little bit.
Let's go.
On this. So I just read this last week. I was been studying these I am statements of Jesus. And it gets to I am the way, the truth, and the life. But right before that, it says, I go and prepare a place for you. And what it's talking about there is actually the role of the groom before they're married, that he would build a house, he would plant a vineyard before he was married. And so when I kind of got in this and started thinking about this, the marriage of Christ and his bride, and what this whole thing was looking at, and kind of went down this rabbit trail and found that in the Talmud, the Jewish history, there's a thing called 26, and it says, do not marry for beauty, marry the family. And what it's saying is, the beauty is going to change, but you need to marry the family because this family lineage is going to dictate who you are in the future.
That's good.
It's big, man.
And even when Joseph is looking for, and I'm sorry, Jacob, they're looking for Jacob's bride, and the servant goes and says, hey, bring me some water. And he says, who is your father? He's not asking who's your dad so I can go meet your dad. He's asking who is your family.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about there is when you marry for family, when you marry, it changes your whole lineage, changes your kids, and changes who you are.
Yeah. Which is a really interesting point too. And a kind of way to put that into one thought is really fatherhood is a lot of selflessness. Really marriage is too, should be. A healthy marriage, right?
That's right.
Is a lot of selflessness. And that kind of plays into what you're talking about as well.
Yeah, and that's what it means to love your wife as Christ loved the church.
No doubt. Well, and again, back to our walks with Jesus. What are we called to do? Deny ourselves.
Yeah.
Take up our cross and follow him daily. On the daily, right? It's a get up every morning, breathe in and out, spend some time with the Lord, and try to abide and obey.
We knew this one was going to step on some toes and hurt some hearts as we're talking about this, because we're all in a different place. And, one father, one mother may have one child who is on the straight and narrow, who has a passion for Christ, and may have two that have gone a different path. Man, just taking a second to recognize that, like, there is no judgment.
That's right.
And don't hear what we're not saying. We're not saying that we have it all figured out. I know that I don't. And one question I want to get back to in a moment is, who did you learn from? So put a pin in that. So just know that. So what we're talking about generally is best practices.
That's right.
So as we're talking about best practices and the things that have worked, that we've seen work as we study other people, Proverbs 22, if you raise up a child in the way of the Lord, then when they're old, they won't depart from it. Share your thoughts on that passage. Anything that you guys have as it relates to that general.
Yeah. So I think you misquoted it just a little bit.
I did misquote.
Let me call out the preacher
Clean
a little bit. The pastor.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's raise up a child in the way that they should go.
Yeah.
Right. And we kind of joke about that around my house. It's like, look, at some point, really soon, you got to go. You got to get out of my house. But
praise the Lord.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, we're going to steward this thing for a season, right? Because at some point, God's grand design in all this is that they are to get out on their own, do their own thing, raise their own families, and bring glory to the Lord in doing that as well. Go and multiply, kind of a thing, all the way from the beginning. And so that's what I think about primarily with that verse is our jobs principally as dads and parents is just to raise them up. We're getting them ready. We're preparing them for what's next. And what's next, ideally, is that they would be Christ followers. They would be torchbearers. They would be disciple makers, Great Commission stuff. And that doesn't have to start when they're 24. That can start when they're 8, 12, or whatever. Right. While going, make disciples, kind of a concept. That can, but that's what I think about when you read that verse in Proverbs.
It's good.
Yeah, two things on that. Number one, met the guy, Kelly Love. He runs this organization called Trail Life, and they're all about mentoring men and influencing men. And he said, we need to understand that building strong men starts at a 5-year-old boy. And so it's not when they're 20, 24, 25, 30, whatever it is, but it's starting at 5. And then the other part of that is and they will not depart from it. And I think part of that, when they're old, is parents need to play the long game.
Yeah.
That so often we get consumed with what's right in front of us, all the struggles and all the pain. Yeah, you continue to plant in the right direction and you continue to do the hard things, but it may not pay off today.
No doubt. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important to think about, it's all about the journey too, right?
Yeah.
The destination is significant, but really and truly, it's about the journey. And to Jeremy's point a moment ago, kind of trying to let some people off the hook a little bit. Maybe that's a dumb way to say it, but one thing that's significant is my wife and I are supremely blessed with good kids. Now, how much of that is nature and how much of that is nurture? It's hard to say.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you guys, they're a little bit strong-willed, but we've been supremely, praise God, like blessed. Are they easy kids? I don't know if that's fair to say or whatever, but some of that is what you make, but a lot of that could be out of your control to a degree anyway. So that resonates what you're saying,
good.
Jeremy, is everybody's story is a little different and circumstances are a little different. What I would say is you get up every day and you work at it. There's no higher calling. I promise you, you're not going to be on your deathbed and wish that you'd sold more ductwork in my case, right? It's not what I'm going to be thinking. But there's every likelihood that I'll be laying there wanting one more minute with my sons or wondering did I do enough on that front? Am I leaving a legacy for them and my grandkids, hopefully one day, that type of thing.
So good.
If your kids are listening to this, I say kids.
Yeah.
Your offspring.
Yeah.
Those grown dudes.
Right.
They're listening and they're hearing the things you're saying. Like, just honest moment. Are they in agreement with the things that you're saying?
Yeah.
Generally?
Sure. Like, honestly, for sure.
Let's go.
Yeah. Now they would, my baby, the baby, he's 6'4", 240. He's a lot. He lives in the gym. Looks like Superman. He literally looks like Superman. But we call him the baby. He would make some smarmy comment, completely probably inappropriate and off color at my expense. and
Oh,
and
man.
the older one would giggle and encourage him to keep going and that kind of thing.
We
But
should have had all you on at the same
gosh,
time.
yeah,
That would have been
yeah,
dynamic.
yeah, they would enjoy that too much.
That
But
would be good.
they will, in all seriousness, no, they would.
Okay.
They would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Which is a blessing, man. What a blessing.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, bless great kids that are walking this path. And Jeremy wanted to give this disclaimer that doesn't mean that if your kids aren't working that path, that it's all on you. I did hear a pastor say this pastor had one son that was a pastor, one son that was running from God. And he said, God eventually told me that I have this one kid for a couple different reasons. Number one, because I've been given a challenge to lean in on faith and to believe on the hard things, that I can preach it, but can I really believe it when it's in my home? And then he said, not everyone can handle this struggle. And so God allowed me to have this struggle.
Yeah. No
And so
doubt.
it goes both ways, and it's a blessing both ways. And how do you see the struggles as part of your own sanctification and your faith? And at the same time, understanding it wasn't because you were a perfect parent or a perfect dad. That was the blessings of God.
No doubt. No doubt. And we talked about, earlier, what are some of the things that, and apologies if I'm getting out of order here, but, the things that I have learned in fatherhood that give me a deeper appreciation, understanding, commiseration, love for my heavenly Father is unbelievable. If you're a young parent or young married, don't have kids yet or whatever, you are going to learn so much more about your personal relationship with a Father that loves you. The scriptures come alive. The prodigal son. I mean, there's so much there. Older brother, younger brother, the father who's kind of God in the parable, right? In the story, lets the son go. Oh my gosh. Just lets him go, and knowing arguably that he's going to hit the pig pen and all that implies. And just, there's so much there.
Would you run like in that situation? If you put yourself in that position, you're the dad, you see him at a distance, like,
yeah, absolutely. And then like flip that around. Would I run as the father? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for those that might be within the sound of my voice that have a prodigal, oh my gosh, right? Like, yes, 100% yes. And then flip that around. I'm the son in the story.
Yes.
I'm the stupid, dirty sinner that wanted it all too fast or whatever, wine, women, and song, and ended up in the mud, right? And then what's great, this will preach, man, but like one step towards the Father on our part, like one step back towards the Lord, and he runs and restores us. It's awesome, man. So all of that fatherhood can make scripture come alive like that and give you an appreciation. Just the Father's love, right? And sacrifice, Jesus on the cross. And man, there's nothing I wouldn't do for my kids. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's neat.
Yeah. One of the things I've taught throughout the years is that one of the ways that Satan works against us in part of his attack is if he can thwart your view of your earthly father, he can change how you view your heavenly Father.
Yeah.
So if you have a abusive, absent, horrible earthly dad, you're going to think those same things about your heavenly Father. And then when you become a dad, you understand the grace that's needed, the patience that's needed that God gives to us.
Absolutely. That's good, man. And doesn't it make sense? Doesn't it resonate too that I think I've heard you guys talk about on the podcast before, but fatherlessness is the main tactic of the enemy.
Sure.
Probably it has been for eons, but it's no wonder that's one of the enemy's tactics is to take down fathers, because it's a critical role.
Yeah, and I think the other layer of that is we have a generation that's having less and less kids. So you have more and more young adults that don't get to experience parenthood, understand what it means to be a father, and so they don't understand the love of their father.
It's a good word, man. It really, again, similarly to what I was talking about, like so much of who you are is who you're married to. So much of who I am is defined by being a father.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Like it does, man. It motivates me. It shapes me. I want to be a great example for them. It's a big deal.
It changes. There's something that flips in your ministry. Everyone has a ministry. Every believer has a ministry. And there was a season when I was very naive and probably arrogant and clumsy as a pastor when I first came in. But I would when I'm looking at hiring other pastors, I'm like, I want them to be a dad or a mom. You know, I want that. Now, I've come to learn that there are amazing, gifted people that are parents and not parents, want to be parents, used to be a parent. So I've learned a lot there. And I still can't help but agree that there are just so many things that when you are, I can only speak for a father, when you are a father, that your eyes are open to, that transforms. When I went to Guatemala and I'm looking at these kids, and there was an earthquake while we were there at a school, and this alarm goes off. It was a 7.6 off the coast.
Oh, wow.
Where we were, we felt a 5.3. I didn't even feel it because we were playing sports. And this alarm goes off, and these kids, they know what to do. You know, they come ahead, they run out. And some of the teachers, like, they were freaked out. Some of the kids were freaked out. And I just remember in that moment seeing their faces, like they were without their dad. They were without mom or dad, and how scared they were. And my dad heart was like, oh my gosh, get in here, everybody, get in here.
I got you. Yeah.
So I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. My daughter recently had surgery. She was at the hospital and she's going in, and it was a nothing deal. It's very common. And she looked at me, and I could tell this nervousness in her eyes. And she's never been in this place before, right? Just like these kids.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, if I'm not worried, you don't have to be worried. Now, if I'm worried, you have every right to be worried.
That's
but
right.
I'm not worried right now. And so, but isn't that true for every bit of our relationship with God?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the steward, that one part that I always love to talk about is you have to win at home before you can win in life, right? And or in business. So when you think about being a good steward, these lessons that you've learned about being a father, being a business owner, how do those connect to you? How, taking this spiritual fatherhood, being over all these men that work for you, or all these men and women that work for you, and leading with those same spiritual principles?
Yeah. So I think on the home front, being present, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. And that was a learning curve for me. Like work-life balance, right? That's huge for anybody, business owner or employee alike. That's a huge, huge deal. And we were from day one, Missy and I, my wife and I were really committed to that component. So from an early age, we didn't always get it right, but we refined and worked through that, diligently, and always put a high level of importance on being present as much as possible. And I really think that among a small handful of other factors, which I'll get to in a minute perhaps, but has been one of the biggest things, is just being present. Like, the word is intentional. I mean, I've seen fathers that are just kind of there but not there. They think they're disciplining, but they don't. They think they're present, but they're not. They're constantly on the phone or whatever, whatever the circumstances might be. But to be authentically involved and intentional, I think is the best word I can come up with about fatherhood. It's a big deal.
That word is, there's a book called The Intentional Father by John Tyson. I'm going to plug it right now. It is probably the best parenting book I've ever read. And you may say, well, how many parenting books have you? I don't know, 5 probably. Yeah. But it is hands down the best parenting book that I've read. It led me on a path of like, man, I'm going to create this. I'm going to recreate what he did. And it was this pathway of becoming, along with an official ceremony, if you will, of what that could look like.
Yeah.
And there's another guy, while we're on it, it's Pastor Josh McPherson. We know who he is, but if you haven't looked him up, it's spelt like McPherson. It's kind of funny, but it's pronounced McPherson. Out of Washington, Grace City Church. They put on an event called Project Man Card, and it's for 14 to 17-year-old boys and their dads. And man, that was a scratch and sniff for me. And I was like, man, what is this about? He's a trusted guy. He's a friend of my pastor. And I went, and I took my boys. I took both boys. Yeah. It was this past last year in March. And I don't want to get into everything because there's just many elements of like surprise and challenge. But it was watching my kids. I'm on a tangent right now.
No, you're
watching my boys go as boys.
Yeah.
and do the things that they were called to do. There was some survival stuff and whatnot, just laced with Jesus the whole time. And while the kids are doing some things, dads are getting discipled on parenting.
That's cool.
And just seeing what they did. I remember Marine Corps boot camp vividly.
Mm-hmm.
And just knowing the 3-4 day thing that they did, I'm like, holy crap, you guys could do anything.
Yeah.
Like, you're stronger than me.
That's awesome.
You're tougher than me. It's pretty cool. It was a great moment for me to build my trust in my kids. So
that's good.
So this intentional, tell Jeremy, I make out definitions so that I actually have a very clean, simplified definition in my head.
Yeah.
And so intentional is this word we throw out all the time, right? Just kind of as a buzzword. So I had to make up a definition for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so my simple definition is to spend time, money, and energy in a desired direction.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
It's going to take money. It's going to take energy. What direction do you want to go?
Yeah.
that's great, man.
Yeah. And so kind of back to your previous question on that, in that vein, I think, Nick, is if there's one piece of advice, right? And I apologize, Jeremy. I think I'm stepping over your question.
Man.
Like if I always say, man, I'd like to write a children's only problem, or like a book on raising godly kids. Only problem is it'd be about a half of one paragraph because I boil it down to this. The principal thing, of course, aside from, teaching them about Jesus and patterning that for them, or in conjunction with that, I would say you are teaching your children how to think. I mean, that is, you think about that, peel away all the layers, get down to the lowest common denominator, and you're teaching your children how to think. You're teaching them how to process what's going on around them. I'll give you some practical application. This is just Colin's family stuff. We were super intentional. There's that word again, putting time and resources into effort into this, in the car. Like, we would be, especially long road trips, anything over 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you get 30 minutes down the road, or much less drive from here to Colorado, you got them hemmed up, and you can't preach at them the whole time, right? You gotta, but you do. It's like, hey, y'all do me a favor and hand me your phones. This was when they were a little older, but when they were little, that's prime time because they don't have a phone in their hands. Hopefully, just best practice, don't give them a phone when they're little.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there. But you've got them sequestered, right? They are hemmed up, as my granddaddy would say. And they can't escape you. And so take advantage of that time. Now, practically, if you just berate them and preach at them constantly in the car, they're going to go to screensaver and tune you out, quickly. But we would take those opportunities as kind of the Lord would present them. And we would just, how was your day? What's going on? What are you struggling with? Hey, Dad, I had this situation at school. Okay, well, let's talk about that. And okay, son, here's how I might handle that. I'm talking to you now through let's say a 40-year-old, back in the day, mind and experience, and you're 11 dealing with, this set of circumstances. Here's what I would say to that. And you steer that conversation back to maybe what would Jesus do in a situation. And so you're literally teaching them how to process what they're dealing with on the daily, and you're teaching them how to think. And again, back to intentionality, back to diligence. Colossians 3:23, this thing, man, work diligently as if working for the Lord and not for myself, not for men, kind of a thing. And raising kids is no different, but that is my secret sauce right there. It's not so secret, but you're teaching your kids how to think. And if you can kind of keep that sort of ever present and sort of top of mind, and again, you can't just beat them over the head and constantly just preach at them. We fell into that trap some too. It's like, and our kids would say, Dad, every single time I want to talk to you, you turn it into a 3-point sermon. I'm like, guilty,
Yeah.
And so you gotta find a happy medium and just talk about the Mavericks or Harry Potter or something, sometimes. And that's good stuff too. Those are precious moments as well. But again, even in those things, okay, well, yeah, this guy got traded or whatever. How do you feel about that? Or maybe this basketball player's not making the greatest life choices we're hearing through social media. Let's break that down. Let's talk about that, through a godly lens and those. So again, you're teaching your kids how to think, man. That's big.
I read this question this week, and I almost forgot about it. I need to make sure I make a note of it. And it said, here's the question to ask your kids when they're young, as they get older, every day. What did you do today that you're most proud of? Which creates a different mindset.
Yeah, that's an interesting
teaching
angle.
them to think, man, do something that you can be proud of today. And it gives them they've been beat up by the world all day long.
Yeah.
And what did you do that was good?
That's
what did
really
you do
good.
today that you're most proud of?
I like that a little better than what we would do is say, give me a highlight of the day and give me a low light of the day. And we might not get that every day, to get them to talk that much is, arguably unrealistic, but that's kind of a little more interesting slant. That's really good. Yeah.
The three, I try to preacherify everything, start with the same letter. So 3 questions for a while that I was asking, and I'm inconsistent, but we'll hit 2 or 3 of these is, what did you learn? What did you love? And who did you launch? Meaning, who did you invest in?
Yeah, that's good.
It could be an encouragement. It could be anything. So
it's a good word.
somebody needs to ask me that every day. Bro.
Right.
Will you ask me that? Yes. Okay.
What did you learn today?
Oh,
who did you launch today? What was the other one?
I can't do it on the spot, bro.
No, I think this is really good. And I wanted to give us the 1 minute, 2 minute version of what does this look like as a business owner?
Yeah. Yeah. So, man, this is what I would say. For years, arguably maybe even decades, I struggled with, man, I feel like I should be accomplishing more for the kingdom through my business. Right. And I think in my mind, I had fallen prey to the concept of like, I need to be super missional and there needs to be large checks written to nonprofit organizations. And listen, that's ministry, no doubt about it. And there's a place for that. Even there's a place for that at Collins Walker. Those are good things. But what I have learned is that ministry as a business owner, as a business leader, really happens more on the day-to-day personal, or rather, just simple conversations with employees, vendors, customers. Literally 3-4 hours ago, I'm standing at our warehouse counter and this gentleman walks up, never met him before, knew the contractor, the company that he worked with, told me, introduced himself, and we got to talking. And I just kind of very subtly, not over the top, intentionally took the conversation that just brushed against faith in God. And he's like, well, man, he goes, I'd like to tell you my testimony. And this guy's clearly a believer as well. And this guy, I don't think I'm betraying anybody's trust. Had spent some time in the penitentiary, just had this unbelievable story and this repentance and redemption story or whatever. And so we talked for 4 minutes at the warehouse counter, and there was this kindred spirit or whatever. And again, he was encouraged. I was definitely encouraged. There were other employees of mine that were standing around observing this conversation. So my point in that, Nick, is that it doesn't have to be these grand raising thousands of dollars for charitable organizations, although it should be no less than that. But more often than that is every day just finding yourself in an opportunity to be salt and light, right? To just encourage someone, to build somebody up, to just simple acts of kindness, goodness, evidence of the fruits of the Spirit. Clint Scott, who's the greatest man I know, and Clint, and Clint as well. Have you met Clint? And so he's my COO, and he characterizes Collins Walker, and I'm gonna try not to slaughter this. He's like, when someone asks him, what does Collins Walker do? He goes, we are a Christian for-profit organization that happens to sell HVAC products.
I love that.
I'm like, oh man, I wish I'd come up with that. That's not me, that's him. But like, that's it, bro. Like we're about making money and selling HVAC, but principally we're a Christian organization that just wants to touch people for the love of Jesus.
Man, absolutely love that. And just like the dad, you don't go out there and just serve people, giving away all the money, but you got to start in your own house.
That's right.
And that's right there in your office with either your customers and your team and investing in them. I love that.
No doubt. Exactly right. Concentric circles of influence, right?
Sure.
I mean, I'm going to have significantly more touch points with the people that I'm physically closest to, employees, and then customers, and then, arguably vendors that I'm on the phone with, and they're in other parts of the nation or country or rather, even internationally or whatever. But some of it's via email, some of it's via telephone, some of it's via text or whatever. But still, there's opportunities in the everyday and the mundane to be salt and light for the kingdom. And guys, listen, full transparency, let some people off the hook again. I'm not elite at this. Like, I don't get it right all the time, but the best we can do is the best we can do, and I just, We take a shot. That's the target, right? Like we aim for that. We miss it some days, but that's what we're going after.
Yeah, it's not that we're perfect, but we're always striving to be better. And better is always better.
No doubt.
Okay, can we do this? Just kind of a lightning round in any of the three of us, really. We want to lead people to action. So we try to give people some practical things. So for a mom or dad who's watching this episode right now and inspired, confused, wherever they are, what are some things, some ideas that we could leave them with?
Right off the top, again, we talked about a personal relationship with Jesus. That's paramount. It bears mentioning again. The other thing I would quickly follow with that is church community. It's just a big deal, guys. Like if you're not, and maybe I know a lot of people have church hurt. I get that. That resonates with me or whatever. I would say just don't quit. Like find a different church, find another church. But community, it doesn't take a village necessarily. It take. I'm trying to quote Joby Martin, and it's failing me right now. I forget what he says, but it takes a church family. Is kind of what it takes. It takes a bunch of like-minded, godly people to help raise these kids up in the way that they should go. So I think that's a big deal to start. Again, we talked about intentionality, teaching them how to think, that type of thing. What would you guys say?
My big thing is going off what you're saying. You can't be a great spouse. You can't be a great parent if you're not taking care of yourself. And you need to be able to set intentional time aside for you to grow. Grow in your leadership, grow in your faith, spend time with God. And so often we are selfless, which means we actually give away the time that should be invested in us. And if we never invest in us, we can't be best for the people around us.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Yes, take time to invest in yourself.
As we have kids being brought to the church in general, not just our church, oftentimes the parent is delegating the responsibility to the church.
Yeah.
And guess what, y'all? It doesn't always work. In fact, I would say it more than often than not, as much as I love what we do in the ministry areas and lanes that we have and the incredible leaders that we have, if you aren't about a relationship with Christ for real, then you can do behavior modification and value set learning and all that, which is what the church is going to give them if they don't see it in you. There are exceptions, and we celebrate these stories all the time. Praise God. But back to the concept of stop what you're doing, even if you're listening to this right now. And if you don't, if it's been a long time since you've come back to the Father, like now's the time to come back. And maybe a father or mother is listening to this, and I would say, maybe someone is thinking about their father or mother. What would you say to them? What might they need to do?
Yeah, I think, I had the privilege of being raised by a very godly man and parents, father and mother, blessed uniquely in that way. And I know there's tons of people, we spoke to it earlier, fatherlessness, and that are dealing with the consequences of that. I would say that what a cool legacy. What to get to the end of your life and say, I broke a generational curse, or there were generations of whatever, I don't know, deadbeat fathers or difficulty or whatever. But man, and I know it's easy for me to sit here and say, but to take up that mantle and to do something about that, to commit your life to Christ is the best advice I could give you, right? Is to do that, get involved in a body of believers, and change the direction of generations that your family may have been headed in or in the past, and change the next several generations for the good and for God's glory. And then to your point too, Jeremy, I would say, we mentioned church community is a big deal, but it is not completely the church's responsibility. Yeah. I mean, it's not our, as the church, responsibility to raise your kid. That's your responsibility. Right. We want to join you in that and help you. Yeah. It's a partnership. Absolutely. Exactly.
One of the things, just thinking about the parent, is that if your parents have hurt you, or maybe your parents didn't lead right, or whatever that is. I lost my dad at 44. Well, he lost his dad at 32. And I didn't understand the hurt that he probably went through at 32, losing his dad, until I lost my dad.
Yeah.
And so give your parents some grace on the things that they didn't know
No doubt.
and
No
the
doubt.
places that they came from.
They're
And-
just broken humans, just like anybody else, me included. I have not done this perfectly, but there's God's, this is a Joby Martin quote. There's Jesus shed blood, and from now on, right? Like, I mean, his shed blood redeemed us, fixed us, made us perfect. And so our sin is now behind us, and far from the east is from the west. It's behind us.
Amen.
And now on, right? So don't beat yourself up over the sins of the past and the things and the failures that you've had, right? It's the blood of Jesus, and from now on. I think I'm quoting that. That's good stuff right there.
It's good.
The last nugget that I would drop is get curious. Get curious about why what you're doing may or may not be effective. You don't know how to fix the engine if you don't know how it works, right? So ask your spouse to coach you on where you maybe there's a volatile interaction with your kid, and then afterward, once everybody's cooled down, it might be a good idea to say, "Hey, babe, what did you see that I could have done differently?"
No doubt.
He's just talking craziness now.
Well,
No, I think it's really good advice.
That
You
is
could ask your
good.
kids,
And
like,
one-
"Hey, where am I not present?"
Yeah, and one more on that front too is to apologize to your kids when you blow
absolutely.
it. It's like, hey, man, I know I'm your dad, and but I blew it. I messed up. I have to ask for God's forgiveness, and Jesus' shed blood covers my sins just like it does yours. And I need to apologize to you. I need your forgiveness because I screwed this up, and I'll try hard not to do it again. That sort of vulnerability and authenticity, when your kids see that, it's just, man, you're creating, I don't know, you're creating stability and emotional intelligence and those kind of things. And your kids, it's a big deal. You're not perfect. You don't need to act like you're perfect.
So, hey, thank you so much for joining us today on Leading Forward. Here's what we want to challenge you to do. Take an intentional step of action now. Write it down. Spend time, money, and energy in a desired direction to get the results that you want. What does that look like? Maybe it's for your business. Maybe it's with your family. Maybe it's a talk with your dad or with your kid. Take that next step in your faith and to continue to be able to lead forward. We always want to learn. We always want to grow. We always want to get better. And we always lead forward.